I know at the start of the camp you talked about your running back situation, and ideally you like two guys, sometimes it's three. What's your feeling right now in terms of what guys are showing you and how many you might use that?
Yeah, I think it'll start off being three. All three of those guys have shown that they deserve roles and will get opportunities as we get closer to game planning. There will be certain plays that are designed for this guy or that guy, but as y'all know, you don't go through a season, especially if you play this style of offense, with all those running backs healthy all the time. And so I suppose at some point we'll be rotating two and then maybe get another one back, and we'll just see where it goes from there. But to start with, we'll play all three.
Where did Mandel really separate himself to kind of take over that right guard role after that first week of camp?
Yeah, it's interesting. He's a guy that I think we've all known has tremendous potential. And I think, he missed a lot of time in the spring due to a high ankle sprain that was, one of those where he's trying to go, but he's just kind of hanging on, And so I don't think we got a real good evaluation of where he was at the time. And as a young guy that hasn't really played, and you have a new offense that has a lot of stuff, I just don't think we really saw who he was at the time. And I think he's done a good job really preparing himself for this fall. And now he's become a guy that, is more reliable, knows what's going on. And, we still see that potential that he has. He's one of those few guys that's big enough, strong enough that he can just handle a big defensive tackle by himself. And there aren't a whole lot of humans that can do that at this level. So we're still seeing that from him, but now we're seeing a guy that's more consistent.
What does the injury to Tucker impact? How does that impact you guys?
Thank you. It certainly hurts because Tuck has had a tremendous camp. I would say he's been one of the most improved players that we've had from the spring to this fall. And in every aspect. I know I'm not answering your question directly first, but I really want to give him some props because of the work that he put in, and we'll be ready for him when he gets back. But it certainly puts us in position where some other guys have to step up and play a little bit more than what we anticipated, but we've got other guys that'll be ready, and it may mean that we may not use as many multiple tight end formations as we had thought, but the nice thing is we've got plenty of receivers that I think can play, and we've got some receivers that we can use to do some of the jobs that tight ends would normally do. We've got some really physical blockers at receiver. Chris Brooks in particular comes to mind and can do a lot of the things that a tight end does. He's maybe the best blocking wide receiver I've been around. Really, really good. So that's one thing. And then having the ability to play with multiple backs. If all three of those guys are healthy and we can play with two of those guys on the field at the same time, then you can still do some of the things that you might have done in 12 without feeling like you've got to spread it out more.
Sticking with the tight ends, you talked about Lance's kind of transition to this level and what he needs to do as a blocker and kind of show you. How would you evaluate how he's done in that realm here in camp?
Really good. Still has room to grow, but really has shown a willingness and desire to go put his face on people and not only be a guy that can run good routes, catch passes, but also be a physical presence.
So I've seen you work with the tackles sometimes up during portions of the Indy.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
I've seen you work with the tackles at times during Indy drills. Like, what have you seen from someone like Davis Hines and then his adaptation to the offense?
Yeah, really smart kid. He really has learned the scheme exceptionally well. Where he's still growing is, I think, the speed of the game at this level, and then I think just the technique. Some of the things that we're asking our offensive linemen to do might be different than either the style or the technique that was coached for any transfer. That's the case, and so not being here in the spring set him back a little bit, but every day he's getting a little bit better.
Offensive line as a whole, where have you obviously positioned that group that's had some injuries this fall, but kind of where have you seen them grow the most since the spring?
That's a good question. I think they're still definitely a work in progress, and having guys out, even if they're out for a while and you'll get them back, you lose some of that cohesiveness that you'd like to have with the same five guys playing together all the time. But I think the biggest thing is just their understanding of the system and the technique is a lot further along than it was in the spring.
Joe Griffin's a guy that seems like in camp he's making more plays than maybe we saw in the spring. Where have you seen growth, and how do you think he might help you if he gets in that rotation?
Yeah, the biggest thing Joe brings is jump ball ability. If we're going to throw the ball up to a guy and one of those 50-50 balls, I don't know that there's a guy that's better at going up and getting it right now than him. And, I would say that's the biggest thing that he brings to us right now. He's also a good blocker as well, big physical kid, and is, he missed some time as well. And so he's still growing in terms of understanding the entire system as well.
When you talked about the running backs in the spring, you talked about how important decisiveness was and how, that's a determining factor of how she's going to play. Is that something that they have to bring in with them throughout their journey to get here, or is that something that can be taught at this level?
Yes.
Sure, okay.
I think some runners are very decisive by nature. Guys that are aggressive and want to hit the thing fast and hard. Sometimes those are guys you got to slow down just a little bit to get their vision right, or to develop the kind of patience that you need for certain types of runs. And then once you get their eyes right, then you've got a guy who's going to hit the thing the way you want to and make vertical cuts and run through arm tackles. Often guys who have great make you miss ability or great speed out in the open, they're always trying to find a way to do one of those two things, either make somebody miss or get to the edge. And that's a little bit harder to correct. I think that takes a little bit more time because you're sort of trying to rewire their brains to go against what they've done their entire lives. But like anything, the more you rep it, the better you get at it. And so we're certainly, again, like I've said about everything, I feel like we're further ahead than we were.
Where would you say Billy is at in terms of what you've seen this fall? I know maybe he hasn't been through all the team stuff this week, but in general, what has stood out to you during fall camp?
Yeah, I've said this about Billy a lot, and probably everybody has, but just his preparation and his willingness to study and be ready for every single day is phenomenal. Maybe the best I've been around. And really, he allows us to be as multiple as we are. Y'all watch us practice and you see the multiple formations and shifts and motions, and you see the quarterback directing things at the line of scrimmage. That takes a lot of work, a lot. And we wouldn't be able to do the things that we're doing in terms of pure volume schematically if we didn't have a guy like him. And then the other thing I feel like is he's gotten comfortable with the receivers, and they're getting more and more in sync every day and throwing with anticipation and making those throws where a guy's tightly covered but he's still open and putting the ball where he needs to put it to make it happen.
What have you seen from Trex this camp as he's kind of come back from that injury he had in the spring?
Difference from maybe where he was last year, you mean?
Or just in terms of what stands out to you about his, development, because you didn't have him in spring,
right,
and now you've been able to work with him in camp.
What I love about Trex is just his toughness, his decisiveness, and it just feels like he's a guy that when you get the ball in his hands, good things are going to happen, And I think where he is overall as a player is he's got that rare gift, and now it's really helping him refine himself as a route runner and understand all the different routes in the system and how to do all the things that it is that we want him to do. And man, he's a weapon. He's a great kid and a tough guy, and man, I'm glad he's on our team.
This is true every camp that you're going against a defense that kind of knows what you're going to do. They've seen it so much, and there'll be more of an element of surprise once you get to the regular season. How do you take that into account, or do you take it into account when you're measuring? Okay, this is working. We feel confident about this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sort of. Yes, that's a challenge in camp when a defense has seen the same plays multiple times. What we try to do is just give them different presentations. But yeah, you'd like to feel like when you get into a game against a new opponent, some of the things that they've seen will be a little bit more novel to our opponent. The challenge really is those things may be novel, but it's still about execution and who can do those things better with a tougher mindset. Our offense and their defense. And, you really, even with scrimmages, you really don't know that till you get to a game where it's live and you see guys play in a real setting with the lights on, the pressure on them, 4 full quarters. And so to me, that's the biggest question mark. It's not so much about the scheme. I think we've got enough experience on the staff to sort of understand where we are and the things that we'd like to do. I think we're more anticipating that moment where we get to see what our guys do against a real opponent.
Do you have a sense of what role or what kind of role Eugene Hilton Jr. would have at this point?
Eugene?
If any?
Yeah, he would definitely will have a role. I would say right now, I don't want to put numbers on it, but he's one of our better receivers when you're asking a guy to run a route in the way that it's designed to be run, create separation, and then go up and make a play on the ball. He just has a knack for getting open, and he doesn't drop balls. And the other thing on top of that, where he's grown a lot, is in his blocking. In the spring, like a lot of freshman receivers, didn't really know that was a thing that was part of the job responsibility, but he's grown a lot in terms of his toughness. And, right now, he will definitely play. He'll be in the rotation.
How has it even changed from your time from being an offensive coordinator when you're at BYU, before kind of the advent of the transfer portal? How has it changed what you have to do in terms of evaluating the quarterbacks?
I don't know that it's changed a whole lot other than you're constantly assessing whether you have what you need on your team or whether you're trying to go, whether you need to go get a transfer guy or whether you don't, or whether you're watching the film of some 28 kid who's, a kid that's not too far away that's got Wisconsin ties. I don't know that it's changed a whole lot other than when you get towards the end of the season and the window opens.
Another receiver question. Jaden Ballard, what's kind of, as far as his development this fall camp versus what you saw in spring, what stands out to you?
I think he's gotten more comfortable with the offense. We know he's got really long speed and the ability to take the top off the defense. I think our defense has done a really good job this camp of defending the deep part of the field, and it's made it harder for us to take those shots in practice. But just his overall development as a receiver, understanding how to run various routes and understand the system has improved.